Right. Today we have to continue, and we were on the topic of OKRs. We were discussing objectives and key results, and I was telling you that this is a mechanism which is kind of replacing the concept of key
Yeah,
performance indicators, right?
yeah, yeah.
Although I'm not against KPIs, KPIs are very good and they're very popular and we are using them very effectively. But this method is more logical, is more sane, and with OKRs, we can directly hook into our strategic alignment. That is a great thing about OKRs. So, how OKRs help deliver business value? Welcome, Alexandra.
Hi.
And we are still waiting for Fatma, but anyways, we have just started because we were over time. Anyways, I was talking about OKRs and how OKRs help deliver business value. You see, this is very easy to understand that if your OKRs are directly linked with your organizational strategy, organizational objectives, then you don't really have to worry about whether whatever you are doing, whatever KPI you are meeting, is it really in alignment with your strategy? Because OKRs by default are translation or breakdown of the high level objectives. Therefore, you don't have ever to worry about that you are going out of alignment. So, whatever is your strategic objective, you have further divided it into your project objective or whatever kind of other breakdowns you can come up with. And the lowest level of objective is further divided into 3 to 5 measurable key results. Now, to meet that objective, this is a surety that if these 3 to 5 measurable key results have been achieved, that objective is supposed to have been achieved, right? So, if there are five different sub-objectives, if they all are accomplished, the big objective is accomplished, and thus our strategy is being accomplished. You see, that's how beautifully OKRs link things together. So we start right from top, from the organizational objective. We set up our desired results at the bottom. Then we can, the interesting thing about OKRs is that they are not coming from top down. They are not just orders coming from top that these are the KPIs and you have to follow them. And they are not unchangeable. OKRs are developed right from bottom up. OKRs are developed by the team, translating the objectives into key results, and therefore they can refine these OKRs on the go. While the things are going on, OKRs can be revised. So, refined further with objectives and key results. Objectives are goals and intents, and key results are time bound and measurable milestones under those goals and intents. So, objectives are your, whatever level. Objectives could be sub objectives or higher level objectives or strategic objectives or whatever. So, whatever level of objectives you are dealing with, there must be some goals and intents shown in each of the objectives. Whereas the key results are basically, they are time bound, they are measurable, and they are actually in fulfillment of those goals and intents. So key results directly satisfy the objectives, and thus this journey travels upwards. Key best practices for OKRs. Naturally, I said 3 to 5 key results must be a breakdown under the lowest level of objective you are following. And another interesting point is aim for 70% success rate to encourage competitive goal making, right? You would ask why. It says 100% success rate should be re-evaluated as not challenging enough because you have set the challenge for yourself. If the challenge was too soft, too easy to acquire, then probably it was not challenging enough. Nobody can ever achieve the 100% success rate in their OKRs. 70% is considered good enough and difficult enough, right? 100% means you have been too soft on yourself. You have set too soft targets. You have your key results are not very, well thought of. Write OKRs that are action oriented and inspirational and include concrete and measurable outcomes. You see, specifically the key results, as I said, they should be measurable. They should be measurable and uh, they should be action oriented and inspirational, right? There is an element of motivation in it because you are translating the objective into key results. So they should be action oriented, that you have to do this, and they should be inspirational. The dialogue, the statement of your OKRs should be, you know, enticing enough, inspirational, motivational enough, and they must be properly measurable. The outcomes must be really measurable. If you can't measure them, probably it is of no use. So we have objectives which are qualitative in nature. They are inspiring goals for a quarter, what you aspire to achieve. So this is a big statement. The key results, they are quantitative. They can be measured. They are the quantitative outcomes for the objectives, what success will look like, right? This is measurable. And then after the key results have been achieved, then comes the actions. That is the execution required to achieve key results, what needs to be done. So first you identify the objectives, then you break them down into key results, and then according to the key results, you devise your actions to be taken according to the achievement of those key results. And once they're achieved or not achieved, then is the insight. The results you get out of those actions will tell you whether you have met the key results, thus, have you met the objectives. So, results and learnings from the period, what can we do better? So, this is kind of a retrospective thing that when you look back at what you have done, you can learn lessons from it. Either you can celebrate because you have achieved what you wanted to achieve, or you can learn lessons for future. It is a kind of a retrospective. If you want to just compare the KPIs with OKRs, as I have been already saying, KPIs are good enough. I am not against them, but they are limited in scope. They are myopic. Like, KPIs are based on business metrics reflecting performance. Whole focus of KPI, as the word says, key performance indicators. You are trying to assess the performance of an individual, of a team, and things like that. You are not really focused on achieving the objective. Like, I don't say that when you are measuring the performance, you are not able to achieve the objective, but are the objectives in alignment with your performance measurement? That is a big question. There may be certain KPIs defined which have no absolute no linkage with any specific objective. They are just for the ornamental or business metrics. Ornamental purposes. Just okay. You should be honest. You should do well. Well, what kind of a performance indicator is that? It should be properly linked with the objectives and the key results. So business metrics reflecting performance sets the performance level to be achieved. It is only focused on the performance. For performance management and measurement, of course, KPIs are basically designed around the performance. So all the measurements are about the performance. not changeable because they are set up by the boss in the beginning, and generally they are not changeable. They are not amendable. They are not. They cannot be. They normally cannot be revised until and unless your boss thinks of a revision. And so generally KPIs are static in nature. They don't change. Monitors the steady state and provides benchmarks. So basically, it just looks at what is happening, what is the steady state, and based on that, it can come up with certain benchmarks whether they have been achieved. So, in a way, I can say the measurement mechanism is also not very well established. We are just looking at some generic benchmarks. If you know these are the indications, then you might be happy. If happiness is a key performance indicator, if you have no worries on your face and you are kind of smiling most of the time and you look happy, then probably this performance indicator says that you are happy, right? So it is just based on certain benchmarks, not exactly on some key results. And this is leadership led. Somebody ordered you to follow these KPIs, and they are always coming from top down. Well, once again, I would say KPIs are good enough. We are we are using them all the time, and we are in habit of following the KPIs. So I don't challenge you to change your way of working, but I'm just trying to educate you how OKRs are different from your KPIs. These are not business metrics. OKRs are goal setting method to improve performance and drive change. Now, performance, yes, of course, it will affect performance, but performance is not directly my target. But resultantly, if I can achieve my objective and I can achieve those key results, then automatically it will be indicator that we are doing well. So our performance is not in focus, but it is resultantly when I meet my goals and objective and my key results, automatically it means I am performing well, right? Rather than looking at somebody is doing their work in the office and are they how many hours are they sitting in the office, and I keep watching that and establish that I don't think this person is working hard enough. That is performance based. But here it's a goal based. OKRs are goal based, and automatically they serve not only to improve performance but also to drive change, which is a key element in project management. Projects drive change. So OKRs are directly associated with the concept of project. For alignment, engagement, and focus, everybody must be properly aligned with their strategy all the time. And in case of OKRs, everyone in the organization or in your project would, if they're following OKRs, they would know what we are set out to do, what is the big objective, what is the strategic objective, what is the project objective, how they are linked together. So alignment, engagement, and focus is maintained by OKRs all the time. You don't get out of alignment that way. A specific area of improvement to focus on. We have specific key results. We know achieve this, achieve this, achieve this, achieve this. And if you have achieved all those key results, then that would automatically mean that the objective has been achieved. And the interesting part is that they are not static, they are not unchangeable, they are frequently set, adapted, tracked, and re-evaluated. We can change them. And second part was it is not top down, it is bottom up and top down. Initially, these key results are designed by the people who are doing the work and they are sent up, and then they are moving top down. Then everybody is told that these are the OKRs which have been established naturally by the team, and now we are going to follow them. So they are now coming top down. It informs everyone on what's important to achieve company goal. So again, we are always focused. We are always looking at the goals, not at the performances. I hope I was able to make a little bit of sense out of it. You can make a differentiation between KPIs and OKRs, and that makes a case. Maybe you start considering using OKRs in future, if at all possible. Okay, about OKRs, is there are there any comments from your side? You are welcome to say.
Okay. The other day, I was checking on Google some examples. So
Mhm.
it's an interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And Alexandra, what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, it's all very clear. No, and I'm thinking about different ways which we can apply it because and it just makes I think in a lot of ways it makes more sense. It's more it gives more freedom to the team to
Hmm.
kind of achieve the goals and it doesn't force them into these KPIs which can be limiting. So I think it's just a matter of inputting it, like of putting into practice. But I think it's really great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, if you now understand this, I have done my job as far as OKRs are concerned. The next topic is incremental value delivery. Well, as you understand, in Agile, we are normally working in small uh, slots of work, small brackets in which we perform, we deliver something, and we move on. And incrementally, in small increments, we keep moving towards our target. This incremental value delivery, although this is mostly associated with agile, but even in predictive environment, this could be a great help. If you have a very complex and very huge project, a mega project, would it not be too difficult to handle everything? You will like to break down your project into smaller parts, maybe phases. And even in each phase, if the things are still very complex, you may have divided it into subphases. So basically, what you are doing, you are trying to break it down to that level, which is easier to do, easier to handle, right? As if at the end of every phase or a subphase, we should be able to deliver something, some value is delivered, and a continuous stream of value can be delivered over the life of a project. And this example I am giving you right from a predictive environment, right? I said there are things which are optional in predictive. If you do them, they could be good for you. They could yield a lot many benefits, uh, but they are not mandatory. You want to do it in an autocratic manner, we don't mind because in predictive that is possible. But if you decided to be agile, if you decided to do this project with agile methodology, then this incremental value delivery is a norm, is a must. You cannot do an agile project without the concept of incremental value delivery. And it is drilled down to that level that the agile system is built in a way that it works in very small iterations, not like phases which could be 3 month or 4 month long. Our iteration size is 2 to 4 weeks as a standard. So in Agile, we are mandatorily required to work in very small slots and keep delivering value incrementally. So this is a very good thing, and probably Agile is designed around it. But as I said, iterative, this incremental value delivery could also be possible in a predictive project or a hybrid project. An incremental development approach can enable value delivery sooner because your working bracket is very small, right? The smaller the iteration is, the working bracket is, sooner are you going to deliver something to the customer, and that way customer will get a lot of satisfaction that the delivery is coming their way all the time, and there is a sustainability element that they will be confident that this small team of people is capable of consistently delivering a specific amount of value at the end of every iteration. So they will be comfortable with it. They don't have doubts that this team can't do their job. They can slow down, or they can start working lesser than what they have produced earlier. So this is a consistent flow of value delivery. Attain higher value, customer value, and increased market share. Because you are making, by doing this incremental value delivery, you are making your customer happy by delivering value to the customer all the time. So, customer happiness will increase your market share. Though that customer is more likely to come back to you because that customer is going to be really very happy about your work and your delivery. Allow partial delivery or previews to customer. Even when the things are not ready to be handed over to the customer, you are at least involving and engaging the customer throughout the process and showing them how the parts will look like, which will form the whole. So their blessing, their previews, their involvement, their engagement is always there while you are doing your work. Maybe at the end of iteration, I am not able to hand over something to the customer, but at least maybe I have got a mock-up ready and a customer approves that. So customer is confident that whatever the job is being done, that is according to their satisfaction, and they have given approval for the design or architecture or whatever. And because the iterations are small, it enables early feedback, allowing for any adjustments to the direction if required. If the priorities have changed or the quality of product is not coming up to the standard, then probably we can tweak our plans and we can add those requirements whenever and wherever required. That is how agile works mandatorily. It is mandatory for agile to be incremental, to be delivering value incrementally. I hope this concept is all right with you. Okay, so this ends the topic C, which we started yesterday. The next topic is about organizational culture and change management. Now let's see what do we have here. The first thing we have is change management. Organizations embrace change as a strategy. You remember, I said when I was defining the project, projects are driving the change. Every project we do that actually is, trying to bring some kind of change in the organization. A project is a kind of an experiment in which you play around with various complex situational ideas and try to make them a reality. So that is why we said project is a unique effort. The product of the project is unique because we are doing it for the first time and we didn't know that it is going to succeed or not. So organizations think of what changes are to be brought in the organization, and that is part of their strategy. All the time, they keep looking for improvement in their overall strategy and what all has to be changed. Maybe market conditions are different, are getting, technology is evolving, or market conditions are changing or something. So we have to change accordingly. We may have to, at the organizational level, we may have to re-strategize, come up with new strategic objectives or something. So the main catalyst for change will be the project. So that's exactly what I meant, that organizations embrace change as a strategy. And naturally, when they embrace change as a strategy, there will be a lot many projects going on, change-related projects going on. So there is a lot of project management going on in an organization, which is change-oriented, which embraces change as a strategy. We have already talked about the role of PMO, Project Management Office, in an organization which is highly change oriented and which has got a lot many projects and programs running simultaneously. PMO can come to a rescue and can be a helping hand for the top management to get an understanding how well all the change related initiatives, projects, and programs are going, and it also builds and sustains alignment between projects and the organization. The link between the project and the organization is basically PMO is providing that. PMO is facilitating that, I would say. PMO is facilitating that. Why I'm saying that? Because PMO is not a mandatory thing in any organization. But if PMO does exist, then probably your organization is very change oriented. You have got a lot many projects going on all the time, and therefore PMO could be a great facilitator of change and of communication, sustaining the alignment, keeping all the projects aligned with the organizational strategy. That would probably be separately looked after by the PMO. Although I have told you earlier that every project manager is responsible for ensuring that whatever he or she is doing in his or her project, that remains aligned with the organizational strategy. That is a personal responsibility of every project manager. But at the same time, for overlooking purposes, if we have a PMO in our organization, then probably that job is being looked after by PMO as a whole, overall. Are all the projects properly aligned with the strategy? Is there any misunderstanding? Is there any need to clarify to the project manager or his team that they are not going in the right direction? They are getting out of alignment, things like that. That is what the PMO will come to play. Whether your organization has a PMO or not, you still are a change maker because you are dealing with change. There is a lot of change going on. So if not a PMO, then someone will have to look after this coordination, which PMO could be doing. If there is no PMO, because PMO is not a mandatory thing, so somebody must be looking after that. And whether PMO or no PMO, you are still a change maker. So tailor a strategy to circumstances, people, and timing. Look at your circumstances, look at your people who are working, and the time available. And based on that, you can tweak your strategy accordingly. And whatever method you are trying to use to do your project, whatever approach you have selected, whether it is predictive, hybrid, agile, or whatever specific method you are trying to use in your project, use a robust approach, a good approach which is strong enough, which is not going to be, there is no doubt about it. Although the word robust sometimes may look like it is the alternate other side of being adaptive, but please do not consider that adaptive may not be robust. The results an adaptive project would be producing would be much more concrete and robust. But at the same time, there is a lot of flexibility in an agile project. So we do not need to contest robust approach with as compared to the adaptive methods. So the adaptive methods can also be robust. Manage organizational change impacts on project. Okay, what happens is when there is a change at organizational level, I do understand, I do agree. I already said that to bring a change within the organization, an organization may need to start a new project. But what if a project is going on and some strategy has changed in the organization? So, how do you see your project being affected by such a change in at the organizational strategic level? Will it an effect on your project? If there is a new change in the organization, maybe due to some other project, that change has been brought up, but will the project you are doing be impacted by that change? What do you think, Kelvin?
Yes.
You agree with that? Do you
Yep.
feel? Okay.
Yep.
Alexandra, you understand the concept?
Could
Yeah.
you repeat it again, the idea?
The first point is the projects drive change. Projects take birth out of change. If organization needs something to change, they will initiate a project, right? And there are a lot many changes happening in the organization, a lot many projects. Your organization is a very change-oriented organization, and therefore it may have a lot many projects going on. At the same time, at the top of the organization, there are certain strategic changes happening. Maybe they are a result of some project you have done, or I don't know how, but some organizational level changes may result in impact on the ongoing scenario, ongoing projects which are happening right now, right? A very simple example, which probably I had given earlier, that your organization is running a good show. They are very well, everything is, you have got a fantastic strategy and you have got a lot many projects going on and you're trying to improve and enhance your organization by doing that. So a lot of action is going on within the organization, but suddenly there is a hostile takeover of the organization and the strategy has completely changed. The new setup, they come up with their own strategy. Do you think the ongoing projects will not be impacted by a change in strategy?
No, they will be impacted.
They will be. That is exactly what I'm mentioning.
Okay.
Even if
Yeah.
there is no hostile takeover, there can be changes within an organization at the organizational level. Some decisions have been taken, but they may be going against certain projects which are ongoing. And therefore, yes, there will be an impact on those projects which are ongoing due to change in organizational strategy. So you must keep assessing your organizational culture. You must evaluate the impact of organizational changes, if any. If there is an organizational change, you must evaluate what is the impact of that specific change on your ongoing project and what are the actions required to be done to counter that or to build that effect of that change within your project. That means you may have to replan certain areas of your project, tweak it, and then you can do it. So you can recommend options for changes in project. So what should change in the project management plan? I am not really mentioning only for adaptive. Even in a predictive project, we can make changes to our plan and continually monitor external business environment for impacts to project scope and backlog. We know about enterprise environmental factors, external factors, and all that. So we do understand that we are already having an eye on that, but at the same time, we must also look at this internal factor that organization culture or organizational change may impact you. So keep monitoring all that as if you can absorb the impact of organizational change in your project by retweaking your project, replanning certain aspects of your project. Second thing is get to know your organization culture and style. Can you tell me what is the organization culture and style, whether it is a enterprise environmental factor or organizational process asset?
It's an internal environmental enterprise factor.
Okay, so this is an enterprise environmental factor, but this is an internal enterprise environmental factor because this is not a document, this is not a rule, this is not some kind of procedure. This is something which is intangible, and this is something which the project is being affected by, right? These are not instructions, these are not orders, these are not procedures, policies, but this is how our organization is. What is the culture of our organization? What is the style of working within our organization? So you must understand those internal enterprise environmental factors. And how do you do that? View of leadership and hierarchy and authority in your organization. How does everybody in their culture, in their organization culture, how do you deal with leadership? How do you, what kind of hierarchy and authority distribution is there in the organization? For example, if you view leadership as an autocratic leader, only the top guy is holding all the decision-making authority and nobody can make any other decision, then probably you have to tailor yourself. Whatever the project you are doing, the same culture will be inherited in your project as well. Same style of working will be, brought into your project. So there is an impact of how an organization works because their culture and style greatly impact all the work being happening in your organization. Second thing is, are there any shared visions, beliefs, and expectations? Now, in some organizations, you will find that they don't like to share the vision, belief system. There is no belief system, and there is no set expectations. People just go there to their offices, do the daily work, routine work, and come back, but they don't share the vision of the organization. Even if you ask them, do you know what is the vision of the organization? What are the goals and objectives of the organization? What is the mission of the organization? Most of the people will not be able to answer that question because they do not have in their culture that the vision should be shared, belief system should be shared, our expectations should be known to everyone. You understand how large an impact this thing can cause you. Then,
Offering about that
yes, please.
on the last what 8 months, the project director had changed twice. So and the styles are completely different in between them.
Yes.
And yeah, it's difficult for the rest of the organization to, get used to, even though the mission, visions, and objectives are so clear
Exactly.
for us, the leadership style and culture that these guys are bringing on, differs quite a lot between one to the other. And for us, it's somehow challenging to understand this. The way to move forward with this guy. So yeah, it is not easy and it's not pleasant either. So yeah,
And this is the problem. This is what we
it
face.
brings some instability, is somehow that kind of thing.
Of course. You
yeah.
see, you might have observed there are some countries in the world which which have continuity of the policy, no matter what government takes over, what political party comes into power, but as a nation, they have a continuity of policy. Exactly that is called the shared vision. No matter who rules the country, but this is the basic, parameters on which this country is supposed to be run, right? Exactly
Yeah.
like that. If your management changes, the top guy changes in the management, it doesn't mean that the whole process should change. The goals and objectives of the organization will change. Now, every new person coming in to join the top seat of the organization uh, thinks that he is now supposed to change everything, vision, mission, everything. He has to revise everything. This is not a good policy. There should be a shared vision that should be transmitted for further. And even if you have to,
In our case, it's not about that. I mean, these guys are coming to the project and bring a new vision and well missions or objectives because that's very stable and somehow we need to deal with that as well
Mhm.
with the clients, you know. But what is affecting somehow here is the personality, the character, the
Yeah,
style, the
of course.
culture. So I give it the culture because yeah, these are coming from two different countries, so yeah, they bring their own
Yeah, own
mindset.
mindset and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that
But
yeah.
the one thing important here is that there should be a culture of shared vision. Everybody should be on board. Whole team should know where we are leading, where we are going. The vision should be shared, the belief system should be common, and expectations should also be known. And if there is any change to that, that should also be shared. So we have no problem if this thing is happening, but if it is all shared. Second thing, we have already talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just making a mention here that those practices must be followed. How does your organization look at diversity, equity, and inclusion? Maybe even you are sitting in America and there is an organization which is kind of a racist organization. So that is not following this diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. So that is not good. So basically, that may come from your organization culture, and that could be a bad practice, and that is something should not be there in organization culture. Risk tolerance. How tolerant is your organization about the risk? Meaning, how big a risk this organization is comfortable taking on. Because that actually tells us the capacity of risk taking you can do, and you can plan your risk management accordingly. Another organization which have a very low risk tolerance, we have to have consider a lot many risks in our projects and even in our operations, and we'll always be doing the firefighting. But if our organization has a big heart, they have a big risk tolerance, they would say, okay, we can bear a loss of up to this much, and anything beyond that could be considered a risk. So that makes the life of the project manager, or for that matter, whatever level of management is working, uh, their life becomes a bit easier. Then naturally, we have got certain regulations, policies, and procedures in our organization to follow. Then we have a code. We should have a code of conduct, like the code of ethics and professional conduct. Operating environment in an organization is different from one organization to other. That is also inherited, and motivation and reward system. I think this is one of the most important things. How do you treat your employees? Is there a mechanism you have developed in your organization which motivates them and rewards them? Is there a system existing? If there is no such system existing, that could be a negative trait of your organization. So, actually, the organization culture and style is not something which cannot be changed. Actually, if you have got some problems in your organization culture and styles as they are mentioned here, you may start working on them and start improving them. Culture is not something which is written on the on the stone. It is not carved on the stone that it can't change. Organization, culture, and working style of the organization does evolve, does change. So, yes, of course, you should be open to change. Risk, culture, and change in organizations. Probably we mentioned risk, culture, and change, all three things, but this slide talks specifically about the risk threshold and the risk appetite. They are shaped by diverse values. Now, it is not that your organization has its own risk threshold, but in the country you are working, in the region you are working, that might be war trodden. That might be kind of there are other whatever natural disasters are happening in that country or whatever in that region, they will affect your risk threshold and appetite. In whatever industry you are working, maybe you are working in oil and gas, or maybe you are working in construction, there could be different types of risks in different types of industries and different level of risk tolerances in from that industry side. That could be, those tolerances could be coming from the industry or the sector. Then your leadership. Leadership can have their own tolerance about the risk, culture, and change. And then comes the lowest level, the project team, they have their own tolerance. So you have to consider all those levels. It is not only what the project team can take on or leadership desires to take on, but sometimes there are enterprise environmental factors which are affecting you, and that makes your risk tolerance um, completely different from what you are trying to develop within. It becomes a prerequisite for you that in a war-trodden country, the risks are going to be very high, and we are not ready to take risk beyond a certain amount. That is our policy in that country, working in that country. So no matter what the leadership wants, but leadership have to abide by that rule which have been given to them from the industry or the country. So naturally, they all are subordinated with one another. These may be understood with care to establish effective approaches for initiating and planning projects, identify the accepted means for getting work done. In every country, in every industry, there might be different means possible which are acceptable in that specific environment. There might be different approaches. In one place where maybe the risk tolerance is too high, too low, probably we may like to go with a predictive approach. So while we are selecting the approach, these factors can impact your decision. Okay, PMI has actually come up with a change management framework, realizing that change is but natural. And especially in projects, this is something very common. We deal with change all the time. So how do we bring change at the organizational level? What is the mechanism? What should be the framework for change management? This, I am not talking from a project perspective, but I'm talking from an organizational perspective. Organizational change requires individual changes. Now, if you want to bring change in your organization, you need to do these 5 steps, which are called ADKAR. A stands for awareness of the need for change. There should be a widespread awareness within your organization, as if the people should know that this change may be needed. to make them aware of it. Most of the people in your organization may not have any clue about what we are trying to change. So first educate them through seminars or other means by which they all should be made aware of the need for change. Yet the change has yet not been decided whether we are going for it, but we are trying to instigate the people, sensitize the people, make them aware about the need for the change. I hope A is clear to you. D, the next step is, now that people are aware that this change might be needed in the organization, now you try to motivate them, instigate them, or inject an enthusiasm into them as if they start desiring to support the change. Previously, they might have been impartial about it. Okay, this change is required. Yes, we are now aware about it. Previously, we didn't know about it. Now we know that this change is required. But are we interested in it? So increase the level of desire in those people as if they want to support the change. That is the next step. That is D. Once you have done that, once you injected this desire in the people, third step is educate them how to change, right? They might be very enthusiastic that they want to change, but how they can change, you have to educate them. You have to give them a course on change management or maybe whatever you want to do. Like, you may have, as a citizen, you may have a desire to fight with the enemies of your nation, right? That could be a desire. The first step was you should be aware that there are enemies and somebody has to fight with them. Then, in the second step, what I'm doing is I'm trying to, create a desire in you that you should defend your country. And that is not enough. Then I have to train you to fight the enemy. That is the knowledge of how to do your work, how to bring this kind of change. So just like that, K is the knowledge of how the change can happen. And once you have the desire, this knowledge is going to be instrumental. And then comes the action. Ability to demonstrate new skills and behaviors. Whatever you have been taught, whatever you have learned about bringing the change, now is the time to put it into practice. And that is where execution is happening, where the action is happening. And once the action has been completed and change has occurred, the last step is extremely very important. You have to reinforce to make the change stick. Because you see, you have just brought a change. It is not really well absorbed in the minds of the people who are going to be affected by it. And when you leave after all this effort of making them aware, creating a desire, giving them the knowledge, and then bringing the change, action happening, and then if you do not make it stick into the minds of the people who are going to use it in future, they may not use it at all. So reinforcement to make the change stick. I can give you an example that in those days when computers were new and automation was happening, many organizations were desirous. They were aware that automation can help them. They had a lot of desire, but they did not have knowledge and they didn't want to, desire was also kind of 50-50. Half of the people were desirous, half people were not desirous, and uh, they had absolutely no knowledge of how to bring the change. Even when we automated their systems, so we had, kind of a lot of celebration and, well, okay, our system has been automated, but they did not have any desire to work on the new changed system. On the automated system, they did not feel comfortable. So make the people feel comfortable in the changed environment train them to use the changed system, and once they are comfortable with it, they are they are easily handling the new changed system. That is the time you can disengage. So it is a part of your initiative, that it is not only bringing the change but making it stick, right? I hope I made myself clear about it. Okay, if it is clear, that is one slide I downloaded from internet, and here it is a little bit better defined. It says uh, change goes through these stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Awareness is pre-contemplation, where you're preparing the people for the change. Then is the contemplation. When they are aware, now we create a desire in them. That is contemplation. And then is the knowledge. Knowledge is the preparation stage, when we give them the knowledge. And action is action. Naturally, this is where the project is happening, the change is happening, that is happening here. But then we will have to transition this change to the people who would be using this output. And that we have to provide them training, that we have to maintain whatever we have produced for them. They should be not only able to use it, but they are comfortable using it, and only then the change will stick. So in awareness, you can ask the question, what is and isn't working in my organization? What are my options? Communicate that there is a problem. Focus attention on the most important reasons to change. So that is awareness. Desire could be communicate benefits for adoption of maybe Scrum, identify risks involved, build momentum, address fears. So when you do that, desire is created. Then you educate them, learn new technical skills, learn to think as a team, learn how to time box, share information, set reasonable targets. This is a specific case where we are trying to introduce the agile method, Scrum, into the organization. So we are specifically talking about providing knowledge about the agile terminologies. And then we put them in action, employ a suitable governance framework, training the basics, start small, don't do it by stealth. No, meaning transparency is the key. Don't hide anything what you are doing. It should be transparent. Adjust processes that touch the Scrum team. And ultimately, reinforcement is when you hand over that product to the other party, then you have to kind of support them, maintain them, and make them comfortable, teach them how to use the system you have created for them. Anyway,
Sorry,
the
so this methodology or this framework, so it's focused on the agile methodology
no, not at
only,
all,
or
not at all,
huh?
not at all. It
Not
is
necessarily.
no, not necessarily. This is a change management framework, applies to all kinds of methodology. But this example I am showing you is from Agile. That's why it
Okay.
talks about Scrum and Agile and time boxing and all that. But ADKAR is not associated with Agile. It could be used in Agile. It could be used in Basically, it is about the organizational change, right? And organizational change is something which is conceived even before a project was ever born. I hope you understand my point. So
And this
when
ADKAR is a framework that has been designed by the PMI.
actually it has been adopted by PMI. PMI normally does it when there is something good happening, they buy it off, they acquire it. So they probably adopted ADKAR model. It is not created by PMI itself, but now they have tailored their own system around ADKAR. And I'll be just showing you what they call it. They call it Bright Line Initiative, in which the ADKAR which they have adopted is at the heart of their change management framework.
Got it.
So actions to support change. When you want to bring change, there are certain do's and certain don'ts. So do's are coach your co-workers to support the business. So for that, you need a lot of patience and compassion, mentoring them. Naturally, you have to be very patient about it. Then enable an agile operating system if you want to bring change in an agile manner. So you have to coach your team members in agile to facilitate adoption of a change-centered mindset. You see, why we are mentioning agile, it is just for the example purposes. It doesn't mean that this framework is only for agile, right? Third is keep knowledge current, continuously improve processes and knowledge. What you don't need to do, the don'ts are do not force change down the throat of your people because they won't absorb it. They don't like it if something is forced on them. Rather, if you want to bring a change, convince them, involve them, consult with them, aim to secure their buy-in, and reason with them. Provide them the reasons for change, right? So that is the way to convince them to make the change. Do not force them. Because when you force someone, that will create always more resistance. And we don't want resistance at this stage. Second important thing is, whatever you are trying to change, there are always certain people who are against that initiative. They are the resistors, and we have a tendency of ignoring the resistors. So that is a second mistake we should not do. Do not alienate resistors. Do not, put them aside. Do not, disregard your opposition. Because you are bringing change and these people are a kind of a opposition to you. So if you don't deal with them kindly, that will breed conflict. So we don't want that. We rather want to convert them into our supporters rather than building enmity with them. So proceed with a lot of care. Handle with care. So these are the do's and don'ts regarding the change. How do you plan for change? To start with, when you want to bring a change, first you want to understand what is the current mindset of your people, right? Maybe people are from a very rigid mindset, they don't really want to change. So basically, you need to first study them, understand them, and for that, you can conduct a attitudinal survey, which will tell you what is the current attitude of everyone, how open-minded they are, how they feel, and what they are feeling right now. So once you understand the level of rigidity in your people, that is where you can now design an informational campaign to familiarize people with change. And this information campaign is greatly, hinging on the attitudinal survey. If there is a lot of resistance in the organization which you have studied from the attitudinal survey, then probably information campaign should be designed accordingly. But the purpose is to familiarize these people with the changes. So in a way, we are even trying to convert our opposition towards our support, right? So this is the sweet way of dealing with the change. Then don't hide anything. Be open and transparent about potential effects of the change. If there are some negative impacts of the change, let them be exposed to everyone as if they can comment and we can find a way out of that problem. Let them participate. Let them be part of the change. Don't hide things and don't force things onto them. Be transparent. And then once you have done all that, then you create your change management plan and show it to people. And naturally, you created this plan with their support. They are going to support you in future also. But if you had hidden this plan, kept it a secret, and suddenly you reveal it, no matter how good the team is, there will be some opposition breeding. We don't want that. We want to keep things honest, straightforward, open, and transparent. Now, let's get back to PMI. The system PMI has developed for bringing change in the organization, they call it Bright Line Transformation Compass, which is made up of 5 things. There are 5 building blocks in this transformation. And this is for the purpose of enterprise level change management framework. So ADCAR, which we studied earlier, which has been adopted by PMI, is a change management framework. But what PMI has converted that ADCAR into, they have adopted that into their own enterprise level change management framework, which they call Bright Line Transformation Compass. This is a kind of a compass made up of 5 parts. A North Star, you can see on the top. This is the needle of the compass, which is inside-out employee transformation. A flat, adaptable, cross-functional transformational system. Sorry. Inside-out employee transformation is ADCAR itself. ADCAR is this needle. This needle should be pointed towards the North Star, which articulates the vision and strategic objective. So as I said earlier, everything you do in your organization must be aligned with the organizational strategy. So this is the organizational strategy with which this change is being aligned. And once we find this alignment, we do all the steps of ADCAR. And this ADCAR is inside-out employee transformation. This needle is based, is standing on 2 basic things. That is volunteer championships. These are the internal volunteer champions, not external consultants. Like, patron within the organization. These are the people who are the senior supporters of this thing in the organization. This kind of awareness should exist before taking on that kind of initiative. And the second thing is there must be an existing transformation operating system in the organization. This could be a cross-functional system, whatever kind of change is being brought, this kind of procedure or mechanism should exist in an organization, and you should have had that. And this all is based on the customer insights and global megatrend. The big picture is the customer insight and the global megatrend on which the whole of this compass is resting on. I hope this makes some sense.
Can you expand a little bit more about the customer insight global megatrends, please?
Well, you see, you are trying to bring organizational transformation, change in the organization. How does the customer see that? Naturally, if you're trying to bring a change in your organization, that must be to improve the organizational strategy, improve the objectives of the organization, and of course, that is going to impact the customer, and you may be associated with the overall enterprise environmental factors which have forced you to bring those changes. So those desire for change might have been coming from the customer or might have been forced onto you by the enterprise environmental factors. So in a way, customer insight and global megatrend Are those enterprise environmental factors, are those customer desires that this thing should be done in this way? That's why we started assessing whether we should change or not. So that is the basic need. That is from where the thing has started. Once there was a need in the market that our organization should improve their way of working, we developed some senior level volunteer champions, and we associated with the transformation operating system. And then we used ADCAR within that and aligning it to the organizational North Star.
Okay. Thank you.
Most welcome, most welcome. Questions here. Which three of the following are essential for managing change in an organization? There are 4 options, 3 are correct. Just read it and tell me what do you think. Only, in a way, I should say only one answer is incorrect. What we are talking about? We are talking about organizational change. Make a note of that. Organizational change, right?
Definitely A.
A is okay, right?
Yeah, because we need to implement different strategies.
Good. B. What about B?
It's essential capability and significant professional content. So, right. Yep. B as
Okay.
well.
B as well. Alexandra, you with us?
Yes,
What about C, Alexandra?
it's not, it's true.
It's true. What about
Yep.
D?
No, we didn't talk about that at all.
Okay. So change control board. Well, from where does it come from? At organizational level? What is the change control board at organizational level? Nothing. Change control board is required when there is a project and within the project something is changing and we are requesting for a change request, and this change control board allows that. So that is out of question. This is not organizational level thing. This D is an absolutely wrong option. A, B, and C are correct answers. So we are done with this portion. We are left with 2 topics: project governance and project compliance, right? But I would like to give you a little break, maybe just 5 minutes, and then we'll get back to this topic. Will that be fine with you?
That's all
Yes.
right. Thank
Good
you.
enough. Good enough. Well, I'm back. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for joining
here we
back.
are.
Okay, the next topic is project governance. Probably we have talked a little bit about it already. That, what do you think governance is, Calvin?
We're talking that the governance team is responsible for setting the rules,
Yes,
across
exactly.
the project,
Exactly.
across the organization more than the project.
Exactly. There is a difference between governance and management, right?
PMO and
Alexandra,
PMO.
no, not from PMO point of view. I'm not talking about the project governance. I'm just talking about the word governance.
Governance, yeah. Understood.
Governance is one concept, management is another concept. What is the difference between governance and management? You are right in saying governance is setting the rules. Management
The thing happening.
is following the rules, doing it. Somebody sets the rules and somebody follows the rules.
Right.
Management follows the rules, governance sets the rules, right? At the organization level, there is organizational governance. All the various departments within that organization, they are provided a organizational level governance. Certain rules have been communicated to them, policies have been communicated to them. Now, each department has to abide by that. So, there may be consistent rules which have been provided to all the managers, all the departmental heads, and they will have to manage their department accordingly. Now, to manage your department, just assume you are the departmental head. Now, you also have a big structure with under you. So, remaining within the organizational governance guidelines, you want to develop your own set of rules which are further description of the portion of work your department is supposed to be doing. You're elaborating more on the rules. So you are trying to develop a departmental governance, and you are telling your managers within the department that these are the rules you have to abide by. But remember, when you develop a departmental governance, that should be, in complete alignment with the organizational governance, whereas the organizational governance was quite sketchy. That was not very detailed. What you are providing at the departmental level, this governance is a little bit more detailed than the organizational governance, but nothing is there that is not in accordance with the overall organizational governance. Now, this could have a trickle-down effect. Maybe you have got sub-departments. Every sub-department head translates your departmental governance into their own sub-departmental governance, and the managers underneath start executing things like that. And that's how I'm trying to show you the trickle-down effect of governance and management. You understand? There's always a the governance body, and there is always a management body, right? At every level. Now, just look at it from the change-related initiatives perspective, that are the organizational project management. There is a organizational governance on top. And naturally, all the operations are happening. We are not bothered about the operations. They can have their own governance. All the departments can have their own governance. But for the change-related initiatives, probably under the organizational governance, portfolio governance will come into play. One thing more, you must remember, governance is created by a level plus overview. If you are trying to develop the departmental governance, then the head of the department gets the guideline from the top and approval for his departmental governance will be coming from the top. He will create his governance, but that governance would be approved by or mandated by the organization. Similarly, if a sub-department is trying to establish their governance, they will get it approved from the departmental head. Anyways, from the project organizational project management perspective, there will be a portfolio governance developed which will govern all the projects and programs. The general rules for managing all the projects and programs would be created in the portfolio governance, and all projects and programs are supposed to be working in accordance with that. For every program, the portfolio manager would be responsible for providing a program governance, and for every project, he would be providing a project governance. So, if you let's talk about project manager. Project manager does not create the project governance, but a level up the program. Maybe the level up is a program, or maybe it is a sponsor, maybe it is a PMO, maybe it is the portfolio. Whomsoever is the level up will provide governance guidelines for the project, and project manager will have to work within that sphere, cannot get out of that. I hope that gives you a fair idea what the project governance is all about. Now,
This is the framework that serves for the
exactly.
project management.
Set of guidelines which are detailed enough to run a project is the project governance created by somebody senior to the project manager, not the project manager. Project manager is just the manager. Who is the governor? Who is governing the project manager? That could be the sponsor, that could be the program manager, that could be the portfolio manager, or in some cases, when the delegation is given to a PMO, it could be the PMO. So governance is supposed to be provided to the program manager, project manager. And the interesting part, which would be fascinating you actually, is project management plan is a direct result of project governance, is a direct translation of project governance. If there is no project governance, you have no guideline to develop a project management plan. A project manager is supposed to develop a project management plan, and he will seek guidance in everything from the project governance. How should I develop the scope? How should I do the work breakdown structure? How should I, develop a schedule? How the estimation should be done? All those principles and mechanisms are actually suggested and provided in project governance. May not be in detail, but a broad guideline is provided, and project manager is supposed to abide by that governance framework, and in no case can he differ from there. Although those instructions would be yes, please.
Sorry, excuse me. So yeah, in project like the one that I'm working, which is a big project, there is even though we are working in one project, so we have one project director in this case.
Okay.
This project director has a PMO and also have the governance team.
Wonderful.
So the rules that the governance team is building up is for the whole. I wouldn't call it a small project, but as part of the main project, we have multiple sub projects, so to say.
Okay.
So this rule are not to be followed by the main project, but for the sub project that we have internally.
No. Main project also. Project director is not the project manager. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Project
But
director
because
is
we
the
don't
boss.
we don't have like a multiple project, but only inside the main scope. So yeah, we have divided the scope into a smaller project. So that's
under the project director. Is there a main project manager who is looking after all the sub projects?
correct.
Yes. That
We
main
call that
project.
guy project director,
Okay, okay, fine.
and that's the guy that is changing.
Okay, so you are talking about a distributed system where there is a project director and there are many sub-project managers, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay, in that case, I would say that project director is providing the sub-project governance. Basically, he is supposed to be providing the project governance, and there is supposed to be a central project manager under which the sub-project managers should be working. But because there is no central project manager, so therefore, project director is providing the governance guidelines directly to the sub-projects, and sub-project managers are actually following that in developing their respective project management plans, right?
That's it.
But one thing should be very clear that project management plan cannot do anything which has been prohibited in the governance. The governance guidelines, project governance guidelines have to be followed, right? And if at all you have any problem with that, you can get back to your boss, tell him that this governance guideline, this rule is not really I'm not very comfortable with it. I'm having difficulties planning. So please guide me. Please change this rule and give me the proper guidance so that governance can be revised. But until and unless that is revised, you can't do it. Now you said that there is a PMO also under the project director. So probably the life of the project director can be much easier, that in the job of developing this project governance could be delegated to the PMO. PMO could be forming all that, getting approved from the project director, and then disseminating to all the sub projects. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that
There's
is what the
something
project.
another interesting thing about the PMO is that, and the governance thing is that because we're entering in the, I wouldn't say the final phase of this project, but we are close by. So let's say that we have achieved around 85% completion of the project. So there are still 15% to be completed. So the demobilization plan has already started. So one of the of the main department that has already left the organization is the governance team and the PMO, because
Right,
yeah,
right.
we are basically demobilizing. So the final work they have done is the demobilization plan. So how we're going to prepare the handover, and how we are going to do the closeout of all the quality assurance that we need to complete, and yeah, and
Right.
so on.
That
But
is
yeah,
what.
the PMO and the governance team, they just have left.
Mhm. So now we know the roles of how the governance, the organizational governance is translated down to the level of the project, and who is responsible for giving the governance and who is responsible for developing the management plan. You are very clear about it, and how PMO gets involved in it. So naturally, you actually get the whole big picture. So project governance is a framework, function, and processes that guide project management activities. So that is kind of a guidance for the project manager to develop his or her project management plan, as if he or she can create a unique product, service, or result to meet the organizational strategic and operational goals. But remember, this project governance has to be in alignment with the organizational governance ultimately. You can't create a governance at the project level which is not hooked to the organizational governance in any way. Key benefits are: offers a single point of accountability, encompasses the project life cycle. Whole of the project life cycle is governed by the project governance. Governance type differs among organizations and projects. There could be, organizational governance or whichever kind. You have to look at the appropriate level of governance. Your appropriate level, if you're doing a project, your appropriate level is project governance, and project governance is coming over the project manager, not by the project manager. Project governance is not created by the project manager. It is either his boss or the PMO, right? So, what kind and how much governance is required? You see, as I said, the project governance is just indicative rules. They cannot be very rigid. It cannot be like a complete plan. It should be guidance for creating the plan. Governance is a guidance for creating a plan. If you get a lot of governance, too much of governance can annoy stakeholders, because then you are restricting their freedom of space. The people who are planning, you are not leaving anything to plan. You are giving everything in the governance, that okay, this is the schedule you have to follow. Well, what kind of a project manager has no authority to develop his own schedule? Isn't it funny? So, not too much governance and not too relaxed governance, which can lead to lack of stakeholder engagement or accountability. If you just leave it as a loose ball, then anyone can make any rule and can come up with anything. So there should be some restrictions, some rules should be there, but they should not be very restrictive. So governance is typically already in place. Naturally, if you have a organizational governance, some trickle down effect is anyways there, whether there is a project governance or not. But PMO, if there is a PMO existing in your organization, a general guideline would have been created for the governance of all the projects. It depends on strategic importance of the project, constraints, or oversight requirement. That is why project to project, these project governances might slightly differ, but generally PMO could develop a project governance for all the project, a general guideline for all the project, but naturally the project sponsor is at liberty to add or subtract certain details into it for his or her project. It is critical for managing internal and external business environment change and deviation in budget, scope, schedule, resources, or quality, and budget management oversight is a key governance area. Now, this is interesting because where the governance will check whether things are going all right or not, they would have certain oversights, like they would have a budget management is directly being controlled by the governance body, and they would peep in after every phase to look at how well are you spending the budget, how things like that. So guidance have been provided. The governance about the expenditure of the budget is provided. They will keep checking often, like audits of your project, and they would know that you are working according to the governance rules and regulations or not, policies you are following or not. The components of the project governance could be naturally the processes for change should be told, how the change can, in the project can be brought, how these are generic information, how the communications in this project should be happening. If there are certain restrictions, you can't use internet for communication, that would be specified there. There would be how the documentation will be created, like how the project plan should be. And if there is a company requirement that project management plan should follow a specific format, that could also be advised there. Decision-making process could be defined. Escalation process could be defined. Internal stakeholder alignment with the project processes. Review and approval of changes, how the changes would be reviewed and approved above project manager authority. Risk and issue identification, escalation and resolution. Stage gate, phase gates, a lot many things. The generic guidelines or general guidelines for all of these things can be part of the governance, but please do not be confused, because project management plan is the detailed execution framework. Detailed execution framework. Governance is the outline framework, which is telling us the basic rules and regulations for doing this project. Right? I hope you understand that. And governance is a instrumental input into developing the project management plan. In
There
adaptive
also,
projects, how do we do the governance? Yes, you were saying something?
yes, because the governance for me is brand new, and this project is the very first time that I see that. We have, as part of the, I don't know if it belongs to, I need to check that with the people, but I need to understand that there are two kind of processes that the components that you mentioned in the slide before. That one is about the risk. So we have one risk department. So
Okay.
they were responsible for checking risk and around the project, the cost or impacting the cost or time, at the end. I don't know if this team belongs to the governance team or it's independent to that one.
Okay.
But the second one is, and I remember one of the member of this governance team, and she had a job title called like a internal auditor, something like this.
Yes, yes, yes.
It is common to have that kind of people for
Yes, of
as
course,
part of.
of course. That is
Okay.
for governance purposes. Those people are for governance purposes. They will come from the governance body, assigned by the governance body to audit the project all the time for various purposes, for quality purposes, for environmental purposes, for quality, for risk purposes. They could be internal team members, external team members. They can all be there. But the thing is, you said these audit teams are coming there to monitor, to check whether you are doing things according to the governance framework or not.
Yeah.
But does it
The risk team
absolve you
the
from
risk team the risk
yes?
team do a really good job on keeping a really good, clean, and a very systematic system
Hmm.
systematic tool on how we are tracking all the risk to the project,
Of
cost
course.
or affecting the planning. So that's a really good team, very, very efficient team. The internal auditor, yeah, they were somehow bit complacent with the project director because, yeah,
Right.
I feel like it was like a role that we place on the project for the sake of keeping our customers or our client.
Hmm.
So
But my question is, does it absolve you from the responsibility of managing risks at the project level? Is the risk department responsible for identifying the risk and managing the risk and doing
the,
everything
the,
about
the,
the risk?
no, the raise at the end was raised by us, by the project manager. So
Exactly.
we were raising that, and they were keeping the tool to
Yeah,
follow
yeah,
up
yeah.
and giving probability and checking the
Right.
the controls that we are implementing
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
doing the follow up and reporting
Exactly.
escalation.
So by using those tools, your life might become easier, but the responsibility of managing the risks lies still with you. They are just monitoring it, right? They are just auditing how well are you performing. So whatever the risk governance guideline for this project, so basically that risk department is taking charge of that risk governance for the project, right? Now, there could be a separate department for quality, right? They could be doing the quality governance for the project, right? And so on and so forth. So, yes, of course, this system will exist. All kinds of governances are under the main project governance. And the governance components should include all those things, which will have to be monitored, which will have to be audited, and maybe you have separate departments to audit them, or maybe outside bodies are coming, maybe external experts may be coming on and off to do that monitoring thing, auditing thing. Okay, moving on. In adaptive projects, naturally, in adaptive projects, things change too often. So, naturally, the governance rules for adaptive projects could be more generic in nature because the internal dynamic of an adaptive project is very dicey. It keeps changing all the time. The requirements keep changing. But the principles for the agile, as we have the agile principles and the agile manifesto, something a little more than that could be a general guideline for dealing the adaptive projects, and that could be part of the governance. And you, as a agile project manager, would be following that governance framework. So there could be some kind of documented outputs and expectations, provide a clear view of project status from defined iterations and sprint expectations, releases tied to the specific dates, real-time monitoring of project output through daily stand-up. So although we do all that, but you see, these are the pretty standard things in the agile: daily stand-up meetings and releases and iterations. Yes, that is the nature of our adaptive project. But naturally, if there are more details required to be included, they could be your adaptive project governance. Iterative approaches enable quicker and less costly identification of value-based outputs than predictive. Naturally, this is an added advantage because in predictive, you would know of your problem or fault too late in the life of the project. Whereas here, after every iteration, we are retrospecting and we are improving and correcting our mistakes all the time. So this is an even better method. And I think this is a better governance framework for that matter as compared to predictive. Governance board, well, you may call it a project board or a steering committee, or maybe in your organization, they may be separate entities. Governance board could be separate, project board could be separate, steering committee could be separate, but they all will have their own responsibilities. But generally, in most of the project, they are interchangeable names. All the responsibilities are same, and you could call them by any of these names, right? Until and unless you have separate bodies or boards established for each one function and you have defined their roles separately. But anyway, we do have these terminologies used in various organizations. Does anyone have experience with a project governance board? Do you or do you not?
Well, they call it the Project Alliance Board. That's the where we have because it's an alliance, so we have the main representation from the different home companies that we have on the project. That's belong to the Project Alliance Board. But we also have some steering committees for some specific activities like the one that I work for, which is the testing and commissioning. So we have this steering committee, including the stakeholders. And basically what we're doing there is having a regular overview of the project, showing some progress, and what most importantly here is the escalation, escalation views. So anytime that we have a problem, an issue or something, so we bring that we cannot solve on the different placeholder that we have, like regular meetings, site meetings or whatever. If there's something that we cannot solve at that level, so we bring that to the steering committee and we try to find a solution between the stakeholders, and in this case, we as a main contractor. So yeah.
Good. So, of course, you could have all of these bodies present, or maybe one or two are present in a smaller organization. You could use these names interchangeably. They provide project oversight. They may include the project sponsor. Naturally, the project sponsor is the boss of the project manager, which you call the project director. Project sponsor is the project director, or you can call him the senior manager or whatever. And PMO is also, if PMO is existing in your organization, that would also be part of this steering committee or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They may be responsible for reviewing key deliverables, providing guidance for project decisions. Escalations will come to them, they will make the decisions on that. In Agile, we have got, using Scrum, we have got a method which is called Scaled Agile Framework, which is a kind of a framework, a governance framework for Agile projects. But, that is kind of we have got a governance level at every upper level. So if you have one single team, you are doing it by doing the what do you call it, a scrum meeting, that is a daily stand-up meeting. But what if there are multiple teams working on the same project, right? You are reporting to your scrum master in a daily scrum meeting, then your scrum master might be reporting, all the scrum masters might be reporting to another senior scrum master. So that adds another layer of governance. So that way, SAFe talks about these scaling up factor, governance after governance for making the project a little bit more complex, right? In complex environments, project could be there. Some people think that agile projects are only for very small teams. No, as probably I mentioned earlier, Google is running a project right now with 15,000 people. It's an agile project. There are more than 15,000 people working on that project. That means if at all it was a flat structure, there must be 10 people in every team, approximately. It must be 1,500 teams working on one project. 1,500 teams of 10 people each. That makes 15,000 people. So this is a large project we are talking about, and that is where the scaling factor or the intermediary governance boards might be necessary. Like the Scrum Master is one Scrum stand-up meeting, where the Scrum meeting could be one layer of governance where the things are checked, and Scrum of Scrum, the next higher level, could be the next governance level, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can relate it with the agile projects. Well, I don't really need to describe this thing as the escalation. If the thing you are dealing with is within your authority, I'm talking about the project team. If it is within your authority and the problem is simple, probably you make your own decision. But if it is beyond your authority, our problem is big enough, it gets out of your range. It gets into this area, and where there might be some responsible stakeholder who could take hold of the problem and resolve it for you. So you should escalate it to the appropriate responsible level, and they will make the decision for you, and your problem will be solved. But that is because your tolerance was too low, you couldn't handle that decision, so you escalated it to some other level, next level, and next level. Escalation of issues, of problems, of risks, everything which you can't resolve yourself, you can escalate to the next higher level. So that is okay with us. But what if the problem is big enough to be resolved by anyone? Or for that, the authority required to make a decision on that is non-existent. It is beyond our power to make a decision on this kind of situation. If it gets out of this parabola, that means this project must be closed down, because that is beyond our capability, beyond our authority, and the problem is too big to tolerate for this organization. So probably this mentions the escalation mechanism and the limit of escalation to which you can go. That is defined by the governance. Governance tells us to whom should you escalate the matter, in what level of case, and what is your maximum limit beyond which we can't take any decisions at all. Please intimate us if things get out of hand to that level. We may consider closing the project down. I hope you understand my point. Okay, as far as the life cycles are concerned, governance system works alongside the value delivery system. While we are doing the governance, auditing is happening and all that, the value is also being delivered simultaneously in in any kind of project. As far as the predictive project is concerned, we are delivering the value as the product life cycle gets completed, meaning normally at the end of a phase or the end of the product will be delivered in a predictive project life cycle. So the governance framework is addressing only not really a truly iterative value delivery, but kind of a end product delivery. Whereas the value delivery concept, the iterative value delivery and continuous iterative value delivery concept is embedded into the life cycle of the agile, and that we are very comfortable delivering continuously and sustainably. The value is delivered to the customer all the time, throughout, without any ups and downs. We maintain the pace, we are sustainable. And rather, not only sustainable, our next delivery is always better than the previous one. Governance checkpoints, if we are talking about predictive, naturally we have the phase gates. If we are talking about adaptive, we have got iterations. So in predictive, we break our project down into phases. So naturally, after the end of every phase, the governance team kicks in and they check whatever you have done is okay or not. So that means there is a bottleneck when a phase ended and the new phase is to start. That is the point where we stop, where the governance team comes into play. They check whatever your promises were, have you made them, have you met them, and if not, then you may be told to redo it or whatever. Or your phase result could be rejected. So this could be called as a governance gate. This bottleneck could be created as a governance gate or even a kill point. Meaning what? That governance may feel after the end of phase one that although the project can go on, but it is not really being able to produce the results we expected, and let us cut our losses and kill the project right here, because it is we do not expect it to reach that level of efficiency as we expected earlier. So it is called this decision point is also, it may prove to be a kill point, or it can be called as a toll gate. There are many names for that. So what do we do here? We decide whether we have to move on to the next phase. The permission to move on to the next phase can be given at this phase gate, or maybe they tell you that okay, you can continue, but you have to modify certain thing in the first phase. These products you have created or whatever you have delivered, they have these faults or problems. You can fix them and move on. Or it can decide to kill the project, end a project or a program. Now, coming over to the adaptive side, in adaptive, we don't have phases, but the equivalent of phases, because phases is the small groups of work, right? Release is a alternate concept from adaptive, and release can be related somehow to the phases, because at the end of phase we release something, right? That is the output. Here, because we are product oriented in agile or adaptive, so we are not concerned about the work, but about the product. What are we releasing? So we split our project just like the predictive split it into phases. We split it into releases. And we are very sure that what is going to be delivered to the customer at this point, at this release point, and this release point. So there may be 2, 3, 4, 5, as many release points as they have been agreed in the contract with the customer. Okay, as far as the review is concerned, we don't need phase gate concept. We don't do that at the end of our release. We are consistently and continuously be able to do the review after every iteration. And there could be many iterations during a release. So it is much more comfortable mechanism where the iteration reviews serve as continuous improvement mechanism. Rather than waiting for the phase to finish or release to finish and then doing the review, we are doing the review all the time after every iteration. Then we gather feedback and take action to improve value in next iteration. So we do the retrospective after we have done the review of the work. We have presented the work to the customer. We also do a retrospective exercise and we improve our way of working. And thus, we continue until the customer acceptance criteria, which is called the definition of done, our minimum viable product is satisfied, our project ends. So we continue doing that. So that is as far as the governance checkpoint. Question here. Predictive projects are plan-driven, while adaptive projects focus on team collaboration with stakeholders, our customers to determine the project need by writing user stories, and hybrid projects can combine or switch predictive or adaptive approaches as necessary. Is it true or false?
Is first.
True?
True.
Okay, it's true. Okay, I would not like to move ahead because we are done with the time. So I will like to continue tomorrow from this point on, and a couple of slides later, we will have only the last topic left, which is the compliance, right? So a little bit about governance, and then we'll talk about compliance tomorrow. Any questions so far?
Pretty good day.
No.
If you're okay with it, thank you very much for your attention and see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you and take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.